It's commentating time! This is Synoptic and I'm doing a commentary for Empire Total War. This is a 2 vs 2 battle. Clan match involving TLG and LGC on Syrian Ridge. I'm playing as the Ottomans, Blonkers is playing as US, Tambour Roulianos is playing as Poland, and so is Estafette Ushiba. There's no doubt I said that wrong. But this is a heavy artillery battle and it took place around November last year. So it's pretty old. And it was odd because they used heaps and heaps of grenades. Something that most other players didn't really use until a bit later. Especially in force, en masse even. They have about 7 of them between them. And they only have about 1,000 men on the field, whereas me and Blonkers have about 15 to 1,600, which is basically your standard army. So me and Blonkers, we all have both teams have 4 units of artillery in total. However, they get the first shot. Blonkers rushes his cavalry towards the hill, which is a basic maneuver to take the hill. So you guard the area with generally missile cav. Although the main counter to this is just for the opponent to set up artillery before the hill and just fire into whatever they sent up. So Blonkers lost about 40 or so horses, such as I think the Pioneer horses. At the same time, our opponents have practically dug in. They've deployed, so there's deploying stakes. One of his rifles deployed, one of his did not, so I'm just shooting the other one right now, as you can see, with those exaggerated death animations. So as the fires start, they have way more rifles than us. They each have 5 each. I have 2 rifles and 2 light. Blonkers has 4 long, so they got the advantage there quite easily. All their artillery is together, apart from one by itself just there. And at the start we're going to try and shoot it with explosives, but then quickly realize we're going to go back to quick line. I'm walling in here. I'm collapsing my entire flank, mainly because of the flanking force my opponent has, which is far on the left. And I'm going to try and guard my artillery. So in guarding a flank and collapsing it, you stop rear attacks, although you give your opponent much more room to maneuver, and that's the double-edged blade, and that is the weakness of collapsing your flank. So when you collapse your flank, the main objective is to destroy what's in front of you. So when they try and envelop you, you kill what is immobile in the front. And I think in a later video, hopefully not too far from now, in a dual com with me and Angelo, to show one where I'm the enveloping person on a collapsed army, and we'll see the outcome if it's not successful. So at the start, here is Blonkers' army. He's got his long range. They got heavily depleted by rifles who are covering the far end. So he's got grenadiers in the front and a long range in the back. So he used them as a meat shield against the grenadiers, who tore them apart with platoon fire. He sent up Minutemen, who on a hill are very effective as they all fire at once. In general, on a flat area, the bullets from the guys in the back won't hit, but on the hill they'll all hit. So there's some heavy losses on both sides. Blonkers had to micro out of the grenade fire, but he did. This is a very laggy match, I remember, in the actual game. One of the laggiest I've ever played. So their tactics are completely designed for this map. As we found out later on, the effectiveness is just too good, and I have to show this because it was just so unique in what they did. And you'll see in previous videos such as Spectres and me and Blonkers' adaptation of the Grenadier army, that even before then, long before then, there were still people trying this stuff out, particularly with Guard Grenadiers, who are exclusive to Poland. So I tried to send my Deli Horsemen down just to puncture the top there, which allowed Blonkers to attack one of the flanks. You can see with his American forces. And I got my Deli Horsemen just firing away. I'm going to rout that long range unit. They're very quick to reinforce the area, as you saw with the reinforced Household Cavalry. So this is their formation. It's rifles guarding the artillery, and main units in front who are not too far from the hill. Grenades don't have much range in terms of their fire ability, but when they're right next to the hill, the second that your opponent comes up to have a shot, he can throw grenades straight away. So that's one reason why this build they have is completely designed for the map with the hill. So this was their match, this was their game as well, so they were the hosts. So clearly their army is designed for this approach that they've taken. And again, we're seeing my collapse. My opponent is going to be quite hard pressed in taking this, because the majority of my army is here, and only a small amount is taking the front. That is mostly Blonkers' job. So we saw some small attacking back there with my Deli Horsemen, as well as Blonkers' push from the front. Although we had to pull back, the rifles are just too strong. We had 3 of them just standing there, plus fire from the Grenadiers. And at this point you can see Blonkers trying to move around the army, because their army is so strong from the front. Our only ability is to go from the side. However, one of Blonkers' opponent has heaps and heaps of Light Dragoons, and this is also long before we even cap the things. So it's still a very dangerous build this is. I'll leave all the details in the video information. I just can't bother going through every single one because the armies are so varied. All you need to know is they have more rifles, stronger artillery positioning, they got the first shot with it, and yeah, grenades, and we have none of those. So we're going to go above the hill, which is going to be very costly. And another thing that worried us was their selective firing. I've been talking about that in previous videos. So they're choosing what to fire. When Blonkers tried to flank my opponent in the frontal assault, they fired right up that flank, and that kills a lot of men with the follow-through effect. So now this is what you can do with a collapsed flank. When they get close enough to attack it, that's when you become mobile, and that is generally not anticipated from your opponent. If they see you with a collapsed flank, they'll expect you to stay there. But if I've just expanded at this point, so I'm going into a semi-pincer formation. So I'm attacking the flanks, but I'm doing charges as well. My opponent has 3 Winged Hussars, and I send them in wedge formation. So that was an immediate counter to my cav, and now I've got to pay the price. I have to go into defense straight after my offense. Although I believe I did enough damage with that Sipahi charge directly into the Guard Grenadiers, who cannot go into squares, and against Lancer Cav, heavy Lancer Cav, they're going to be utterly decimated. You can see how far away this is from the main fight in that overhead shot. So this is the main body. At this point, Blonkers is starting to maneuver his entire army there on the right flank, although they're being assaulted by all of Poland's cavalry. There's a household there and the 3 Light Dragoons in the background just firing, and you can see one of the units routing to the left just there in the camera. It's going to be very costly for Blonkers to push forward in this. So he has his the middle unguarded. Poland recognizes this straight away and goes into the melee with a hero grenadier. That's one heavily depleted already, so that's going to rout, but he has one full right behind it, I think, just coming up, and that will be the actual one he was designed to attack with. So you can see Blonkers retreating now from it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure one Guard Grenadier will smash all 3 of those, just in terms of stats. Very, very strong melee stats those Guard Grenadiers have. So our initial push we saw with the Deli Horsemen back there, way before, that was successful. That punctured the hole and split the army into 2. So their flanking ability, their flanking initiative was split. And now they're left with an immobile artillery front and a very, very weakened flanking front. And this is one thing which I generally don't recommend, is charging grenadiers directly at Line Infantry. They should be reloading at the very least before you charge them in. So he had one relatively high number grenadier. All I had to do was shoot at it before it even started throwing, and it just ended up routing after its initial throw. All those flashing flags, that is the end result of the frontal push. So we just slowly but surely just pushed through. However, the flanking force that Blonkers had was heavily attacked, and I don't think that was successful. There's just too many attacks at once. And this is the same Guard Grenadier, although Blonkers now has a high ground with his long range, so they'll fare much better than they would have. And the Light Dragoons the heavy force of Light Dragoons from Poland has just pushed through the middle, and the right to which it countered Blonkers' flanking force, and it's attacking Blonkers' artillery. Way over here though, I'm just finishing up the flanking force. So Blonkers had the tough job of taking on an army and a half basically, while I just had to take on the flanking force. And yeah, this is the very end, and this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to record this, because I just got one of the best shots in the previous video. I had one of yes, that, and another one. The shell fires into the ground and then it explodes, and it's blood shower. Never saw that before in an Empire game ever. Very violent, very good, I'd say. And entering melee with these guys isn't so bad off, even against Light Dragoons. Their defense isn't so high. Regardless of very low morale, it's around 3 for artillery units, which explains how easy they rout after losing a couple of cannons. And this is all that's left, the Light Dragoons. Okay, so these Light Dragoons were pushed against the flanking force of Minutemen, and he sent his main force at the long range of Blonkers, and they just slowly got decimated, plus the flanking force of me and Blonkers, and the actual flanking force of their team was taken on by me with an expanded collapsed flank. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for